Hey there! Welcome to Food for Thought. Let's see what's on the menu for today. Oh, something sweet! Let's talk about the croissant. Hey there, before we start the video, I just wanted to put a quick disclaimer. I don't speak French. I've never learned French, so pronouncing croissant is extremely difficult, as you'll hear throughout the video. I'm trying really hard, but I have Perry here who's going to help me pronounce the word.
Quoi?
Quoi?
Sang.
Sang.
Quoi?
Quoi?
Sang.
Sang.
Croissant.
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 Quoi?
Quoi?
Sang.
Sang.
Croissant.
Croissant. Ah, le croissant. His name brings memories of a small petit café in Paris. Actually, never mind. That was pretty cringe. So, on to the video. Or that's what's been implied over the centuries, as France has adopted this pastry and made it their own. Now we know that the croissant is not French at all. It's actually an imposter from Austria. Now, the flaky croissant that we know today didn't exist at the time, but its predecessor called the Kipfel. And as you can see, they share many similarities. Now, the croissant has a bit of a flaky past, but I'm going to do my best to cover what I can. So, on to the history. The first legend involves a baker. He was up all night preparing for the next morning and heard a strange sound coming from the earth. The city was currently under siege, and the Ottomans were known for digging underneath city walls. This tactic was extremely effective. They would dig these tunnels and fill them up with explosives, bringing down the walls, exposing the city and its civilians to the mercy of the Ottomans. The baker who lived close to these walls warned the guards who sounded the alarms. The tunnels were then swiftly destroyed and the Ottomans retreated. After this, the baker created the crescent-shaped pastry to celebrate the expulsion of the enemy army. The flaw in this story is that we don't know which city or year this took place. Whether it was Vienna in 1683 or Budapest in 1688. Also, you would think the name of the baker would be well known. So we can dust this up as a tall tale. Another story about this croissant is that it was brought to fame in France by none other than Marie Antoinette herself. She would be craving food and sweets from her home country, so she would sneak away to eat her treats in private. This can't be true because Marie Antoinette was royal and incredibly popular. She would be constantly supervised by the guards or the court, so her sneaking away to eat food is just food folklore. The closest record of her eating a kipferl is in a note from her maid. She wrote that Marie would enjoy a sort of bread she used to have since her childhood in Vienna. So there is a possibility that this would have made its way to the French courts. This would also mean that Marie wouldn't have to sneak away to eat the pastry since it would be served openly to her. Another interesting point to make is that one of her cooks was German, so there's a possibility that this could have made its way into the French courts. Lastly, this pastry wasn't even introduced in Paris until Viennese baker August Zang introduced the bread in his bakery in 1838, 46 years after Marie Antoinette's death. August Zang opened up his upscale patisserie called Boulangerie Vinoise, where he served many treats from Austria. The posh pastry started making waves thanks to August Zang's genius marketing strategies in decorating his bakery window and placing many ads in the paper. He wasn't just an ordinary baker. On the contrary, he was an entrepreneur and an innovator. He had patented the steam oven, which he brought with him to Paris. Using it, he was able to make the kipferls with a much flakier dough than its counterpart. The Parisian society admired the difference and renamed it the Croissant. By 1840, this famous bread took Europe by storm, with many famous people in history enjoying its soft, flaky, buttery texture. Even famous English writer Charles Dickens made a comment about his trip to Paris, describing the dainty little croissant on a boudoir table, which he prefers over the traditional English breakfast since there isn't a dismal monotony in the presentation or foods. Ouch. Over the decades, the demand for the croissant has increased to the point where some bakers can't keep up. However, through innovation, they're able to mass-produce these pastries, but does that make it any less than a croissant? The 2014 winner of Best Butter Croissant Michael Lysak weighs in on this topic. The secret of an excellent croissant is the quality of the ingredients. Sugar, salt, flour, milk, eggs, and of course, butter. Which is difficult since quantity means that they might have to sacrifice in quality. Ever since the mass manufacture of the croissant, especially in the United States, the pre-made frozen dough is not the same as ones being freshly made. Many bakeries are trying to fight this trend of machine-produced pastries. It's reached a point where some bakeries market their bread as fait maison, or handmade. Even the National Coalition of Food Retailers had launched a campaign where boulangeries and other food shops would display "Ici humain," which means here it's human. These bakers are raging against the machines, and I think it's pretty cool. Every little pastry, every meticulous detail has been handmade by someone that works there. There are so many interesting videos on how to bake a croissant properly, since there are two styles of baking. You have the French method and the English method. So if you're interested in learning about the baking process, just give it a quick search or look in the description of this video. I'll put in some of my favorite recipes I found online. Make sure to check it out, after this one of course. So we've talked about the traditional ways of making a croissant, but this wouldn't be a real food for thought episode if I don't discuss the Frankensteins of croissants. Bakers around the world decided to step outside the box and fuse a croissant with other things, such as the cronut and the pretzel croissant. Weird, right? Well, it doesn't end there. There are other crazy combinations floating out there, such as the tacro, the crotilla, the cruffin, the craggle, and the croussushi. I mean, these combinations are pretty funny, but I'll give it a try though. Parisian master baker Eric Kaiser commented on these inventions. A derivative may be good, but it's not a croissant. A croissant is a traditional product that has been sought after and consistently popular over the years because of its specific taste and texture. The croissant will continue to remain a bestseller. Michael Lysak was asked about these new wave croissants, and all he had to say was this: better for your health to have a croissant, no? These aren't the only interesting facts about this little puff pastry. Did you know that the croissant is banned in one country? In 2013, Syria banned the croissant because it celebrates European victory over Muslims. Which I can see where they might think that, because Syria was a French-occupied territory until 1946. However, as I stated in the beginning of the video, the pastry itself is not French, but Austrian. Either way, if you're seen baking or eating a croissant in Syria, you'll get arrested, or even worse. So, may I recommend just skipping that breakfast there? Anywhere else in the world, the croissant is welcomed with open arms. From Turkey to South America, many variations of this puff pastry exist, some stuffed with sweets, meats, cheeses, and others covered in toppings. There seems to be a type of croissant for anyone. That is, anyone who's allowed to eat it, of course. So, what do you think of the croissant? Is there one particular style that you like? Occasionally, I love a nice pain au chocolat with my coffee. But I am tempted to try the tacro if it ever crosses my path. It just kind of looks like a chalupa to me. Well, if you like this video, don't forget to drop a like and maybe hit the subscribe button. You know, food for thought.